I spent about $2,000 traveling to Japan, and that's including flights, so let me tell you how I did it. Now, I told you in my last video about my budget that I spent $350 in cash. That's all I brought in cash, but that's not how much I spent because I use my card a lot. I'm from Atlanta, so let's get the flights out of the way because this probably isn't going to apply to you unless you're also from Atlanta, but I wanted to stop and say hey to my friends in LA before we left, so my flight from Atlanta to LA on Delta was $200, and my flight from LA to Tokyo was $700. And if you're wondering how I got those flight prices, check my pinned video. I teach you how to get really cheap flights. Okay, next up is hotels, and we stayed at 2 hotels in Tokyo, 1 in Osaka and 1 in Kyoto, and spent $500 for the whole trip. It would have been $1,000 if I paid for all of those rooms by myself, but I was splitting a room with a friend, so $500. For short daily train rides, I spent $45 the whole trip. For Uber, spent $100. Now you don't have to Uber. I could have cut costs here, but we flew in at 4 a.m. and we were looking cross-eyed and tired and didn't want to try to figure out the trains, so Uber. For activities, so again, this is gonna vary person to person, but me personally, I went to Shibuya Sky, Tokyo Disney Sea, an onsen, the Ginza Art Aquarium, and I used the Osaka Amazing Pass, which includes a couple different things. Then I also did a tea ceremony and Tokyo Sky Tree. All of those totaled up to $166. For food, I felt like I was eating whatever I wanted, but it just was really cheap for some reason. I spent about $20 per day on food, so that totals up to $140. And then souvenirs is where I went a little bonkers. Actually, not really compared to some people. I spent $300 on souvenirs. And just to reiterate, I used my card to pay for almost all of these things that I just mentioned. I used up the cash that I brought, but mostly everything took card except a couple food places, the temples, and whatever other places I talked about in my last video about this. But the grand total with flights included is $2,290. I did round up on some things, so it's probably a little bit less than that. And then without flights is $1,251. I'm really proud of that. I feel like, actually, I know I've gone to other places and spent way more money. Like, it was more expensive for me to go to Ireland, Belgium, and the UK than it was for me to go way further and go to Japan. So that's that. Let me know if you're going to Japan soon, what your budget is, and if you've been already, how much money did you spend? I'm curious.